And welcome to The Factor Uncensored. Thank you for joining us tonight. The death of teen Austin Metcalf continues to be a focal point in some conversations about race relations in America. As we've reported here on The Factor, the teen died after being stabbed at a track meet in Frisco earlier this month. The suspect, Carmelo Anthony, who is black, has been moved from his home to an undisclosed location after his family received threats and was harassed over the weekend. This also comes as protests organized by a group called Protect White Americans happened in Frisco Saturday. During the rally, founder Jake Long called Austin's father, Jeff Metcalf, asking for him to stand with the group. KERA News caught it on camera.
And I grew up as a 17-year-old young white man too, and I grew up in fear of my life around black people because they were killing and robbing people around me all the time. And I don't understand, as I was a father, you could sit idly by and not condemn the culture that killed your son. There is an epidemic problem in this country, and your voice could be one of the loudest voices in this country, but you've chosen to recoil out of fear and continue the suppression. Why will you not stand with me and with the rest of the people? We're not calling for racial divide. We're not calling for hatred. We're saying 350,000 attacks on white people by black people a year in this country is wrong. Why can't you stand that and say with that? Maybe you can. Would you be willing to stand by me in a press conference or in an individual interview and talk about this issue that is larger than Austin at this point? God rest a beautiful young man's soul that would have been one of our strongest voices if he was still alive today.
Are you done?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, my turn to speak. You are part of the problem, my friend. You're trying to create more race divide than bridging the gap. I do not condone anything you do. You do not have any...
That's called white guilt.
No, let it talk.
But my son, let me finish. I give you your time. You take my son's face off your website. I am not associated with you.
You're creating more Austin Metcalfs with your weakness, sir.
Wow. Now, Lang, the organizer you just heard talking there, says has been pardoned by President Trump after the Capitol riots on January 6th. He is now a Republican candidate for the Senate seat in Florida. Is this an example of people using tragedy to instigate racial divide in America? Is this our America? Joining us to talk about it, filmmaker Sean Welling, CEO of Regal Media, Todd Smith, and pastor and journalist Dr. Ruth Olison. So you guys heard it. You heard the entirety of that conversation after the rally. Your thoughts about it?
This guy is trying to take advantage of something very, very tragic. Two families are experiencing a terrible ordeal. One of them has lost their son. He's never coming back. This is not a movie. This is not a game. And he is using this to further stoke division in our country. And we don't need any more of that. And unfortunately, he's an idiot.
And it's unfortunate. I agree with everything you just said, but this was never a racial incident, in my opinion. Yes, we've had racial incidents in the past that are similar. Trayvon Martin, I really believe that stereotyping young black males led George Zimmerman to confront Trayvon, Tamir Rice, some of these younger people, but this was just two teenagers who got into an unfortunate situation, and unfortunately Austin Metcalf lost his life. Now we'll let the judicial system handle whether or not it was self-defense, but for him to stoke these fears, for him to make it seem like black people are out there attacking white people and white people are victimized. He said that he's been seeing since he was 17 black people kill and rob people his whole life. Like, what type of Negroes you've been around? Because I've been around nothing but Negroes my whole life. I haven't seen one black person murder somebody and rob somebody like that. So who are you hanging out with? It's just stereotyping people, and it's just causing more division, and he's using it to benefit his political career. But that's why we have so many problems in this world. People will destroy society just to benefit themselves.
Sean, your thoughts on this?
Well, you know, I go back to the fact that I had the first hip-hop dance scene in the country, so as far as being around a lot of black people, I averaged about 10 to 20,000 black people in my house a year. Never been threatened. This concept that he's talking about is absurd, absolutely, 100%. But this is being politicized 100%, like you both said. There is a crime here. The kid pulled a pocket knife and stabbed somebody, and that's a crime that we fed out in the judicial criminal court. We'll see what happens. And it is very serious. I don't like the narrative. Anytime we talk about race and label people by skin color, it is segregation, make no mistake. Hopefully 10, 15 years from now, that will dissipate.
And when we take a look at what he is pushing for, division, but when you take a look at the initial fundraisers, there were racial lines. And this is Americans without him causing or being involved. Americans, black Americans raised money for Anthony, while on this side, Metcalf, white Americans raised money and others raised money for the victim. So there's something in our country that's still there. He is just only the face of it, the ugliness of it.
It's very, very ugly. And who I'm really proud of, though, is Mr. Metcalf, the father of the young man who died. He came out early and with forgiveness. He came out earlier than I certainly could have. And he seemed to realize that this was just a terrible, terrible tragedy. And he doesn't want his son's name on the mouth of this guy, and he needs to respect that. So I just think it's very, very sad, and I think there's a lot going on that is going on in our country today to separate people. And when you hear of that kind of thing, stay away from those people. Stay away from those rallies.
We'll continue this conversation in just a moment. Also still ahead on The Factor, we'll continue our talk or begin our talk about Shannon Sharpe, but we'll come back with this conversation after the break. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We continue our discussion on race in America and how it may be used as a talking point in someone's political platform and agenda. Our guests are back. And Todd and Sean, let's get back to the point I was making. Initially, when this first happened, America divided on this issue, black and white. Your thoughts about that? Is it always there? And we have someone like Mr. Long who bring it to the forefront.
We are tribal in nature, and so our go-to is take a side and get angry and let's argue. Okay? Neither side is monopolizing this. This is something that is happening everywhere, and we just, as human beings, have a nature to want to say, I've got a side, they're wrong, and it makes us feel more powerful. And I think, in large part, people who don't have goals in life and are achieving things, they get into this self-perpetual, I have a purpose thing. And I think that's a large part. Now, what you said, I loved. What she said was that don't give these people any attention. Don't give them any mind. Let it dismiss itself. But nowadays, we're like, oh my God, it's egregious, it's horrible. And then we get into this thing where it's become something.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, you mentioned a good word, powerful. And you said it is tribal, but racism comes from a power structure. And race is a social construct. It's created by people who we will consider white today to justify enslavement and the oppression of brown people. That's where it started.
I disagree.
No, that's where it started.
Neither side has a monopoly on this.
I don't care about the monopoly. I'm talking about the power.
Just tell the facts.
Both sides don't have power, but when you have black people, brown people moving up in that power structure, you have white backlash. That's why you have the Langs of the world. That's why you have the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world. That's where you have the Donald Trumps of the world. That's why you have these. No, that's not. No, it's not.
I think the interesting thing is this guy is trying to make himself. This Long is trying to make himself out to be a victim. Now, come on.
A victim of what? And like
a victim of what? He's a victim of black people.
That's the thing. Black people have no power.
No, I'm with you when he starts talking about the monopoly. Throughout history, nobody has monopoly.
But when was race created? And
when people decided to make one person black and another person white,
we're
still falling for that. We're still falling for that.
What color
went so far back?
You're not answering my question though. People who are Europeans who enslaved, you have to justify treating a person like a slave, like a dog.
Yeah.
You have to put that in your mind. How do you treat another human being?
I understand.
You have to create.
Look,
they're worse
I get
than
that
me.
in America. But slavery comes from Slavic people who are white. It goes globally. Now, in the United States, you're right, 100%, but it doesn't monopolize it here in the United States. It's a global issue. Slavery and this oppression is global.
The chattel slavery of black people, that's...
Can I just say, happily, we're not dealing with slavery anymore, but we are dealing with the vestiges of it. And we have a group of people, we have to be very careful about this, who are trying to uplift themselves as if they are better than anyone else.
100%.
And the way they try to do that is they marginalize and diminish other
100%,
people.
you're right.
And that's what this guy is doing, and that's a problem.
I completely agree with you there. 100%. Well, the only thing, what I'm trying to get real clear is that both parties, both sides, everybody needs to come together.
We do need to come together.
And we need to stop making each other by skin color and ideology.
How do you do that, though? How do you do it?
Just like Morgan Freeman said, stop talking about it.
But
Get rid of it.
I'm going to tell you this, though.
I want to say in this case, these families, both of these families, have experienced a tragedy.
Yes.
They have both, in a real sense, lost their sons. Their lives will never be the same.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say that we need to focus on the humanity of these families and the grief of what they're having to go through so that we can stop this. We need to value the lives of all people.
Right.
We've got to get to that.
That is exactly what I'm saying, is that it's about integrating our souls together, coming together, and stop segregating.
I'm going to tell you this, though. I'm going to say it in 1 second.
We're out of time, Todd. Really quick, 10 seconds.
The racism that I have experienced, I wasn't talking about race, I wasn't thinking about race, but the racism hit me in the face. So we can not talk about it, but that doesn't make it a non-reality. It will still hit you in the face if you're dealing with an ignorant person. But we have to talk about it to educate these people like Lane who are ignorant.
We want to thank you guys for joining us. This could go on all night. Still ahead here.